Takes a minute for Twitch to catch up and start playing everything.
Already up.
Oh, it's already up?
Yeah.
Huh.
Whatever
Feels
your
weird.
whatever your latency is usually what it is. So, I think in this case it's about 7 to 11 seconds or something.
That's technically good, I'd like to think. Could be
Yeah,
worse.
that's a good amount of delay. Yeah, I mean you can turn on low latency, but I don't know if that's for partners only.
Hmm.
No, I think it might be a normal setting as well because Twitch is
Okay.
trying to like pull features over from Mixer. So
How do we start this?
I have no idea. Um,
A territory yet unexplored. In a world far, far away. There be squids out there.
sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine if this game was actually set in like the ruin of like some fucking ancient city that was like just deep underwater because they're all cephalopods. And so we're just actually like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm listening.
Yeah, because cephalopods are the most alien thing that exists on this planet. Their DNA is not even close to anything that we know or are aware of. So the conspiracy theory is that cephalopods come from outer space and they've just made their homes at the bottom, as octopuses and stuff, and just um, in the ocean. So what if Atlantis sank, thousands of years ago, and then
With
cephalopods like, hey, look,
Squidlantis, thank you.
yeah, and they're like, oh, hey, look, we're just gonna make our
Nick with the deep thoughts. As soon as we actually technically we haven't even started yet. Jeez.
just like cut it out and just tack that on to the end.
Shoot. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a casual side quest. Here we're going to be doing a review of a game called Squidlit, a fun squid platformer game that came out for Steam back in 2018, and it came out recently, a couple of weeks ago, for the Nintendo Switch on January 14th. So we were given a copy. Thank you to the generosity of Super Squidlit. And man, Nick and I both decided that we were going to play it because it looked interesting as heck. I got to play it on the Nintendo Switch. Nick, you got to play it on the PC, correct?
Yes, I got it via Steam.
Oh, Steam. Oh, pardon me. Well, thankfully, it hasn't fallen victim to the Epic Store idea of being exclusive to that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's competition's healthy.
Competition is very healthy. So, before we started, I did want to give a brief history, if I could. This is actually by Alex herself. I believe she is the main developer of this game, if not the sole developer of this game. She might have had some help with her wife, but the history that was on the website was Squidlit was started by Alex while her wife Samantha was in college for game art and design. Alec loves invertebrates and has a degree in aquarium science. In the beginning, it was a small project that Alex did, primarily on her own, to teach herself how to code and make music on a Game Boy, which is awesome. Once Squidlit was fully released, we decided to create our company, Squidlit Inc. LLC, limited liability. To design our own games, we tag as Retro Recreations, with Squidlit acting as our first title. We look forward for exploring the past of video gaming alongside you as we seek to entertain you with our old school squishy fun. And that was verbatim according to their website. So, Nick, this person, Alex, decided that while her wife was in college, who was making or getting a degree in game art and design, Alex herself was working on this game in Tangent.
Right. Um, which is interesting, especially because we both played the game and looking at the game art. Um, it just seemed like this is something that they wanted to do and that naturally evolved. But I think it came out at quite a lucrative time.
Uh, As in March 2nd, 2018, when it first came out?
Just in general, yeah. I mean, you could argue the trend for nostalgia maybe started around there, or maybe a little bit before.
Right.
And so I feel like it just happenstance came out at a good time, and so there's just going to be just natural drawn interest towards it.
And as a person who loves, I admit, I started on the Game Boy Color. That was my first Game Boy console or first game console, and playing those kind of retro games, starting off with Pokemon, starting off with Link's Awakening and all that stuff from Nintendo, it definitely has that kind of vibe, and I really enjoy that. So the fact that they were able to go almost a step further to give it legitimate, like it legit feels like a game that belongs on the Game Boy. It feels like a natural fit. Honestly, it feels like they hit the right point when they wanted to hit that goal.
Yeah. Before we go into like, we'll touch on a lot of these points, but it took me a while for it to click. But when I first launched the game, I'm like, huh. I wonder if there was any like design or aesthetic reason they picked just the one shade, and then I'm like, yes, but the Game Boy Color didn't have color screens. And so if that's kind of the kind of feel that they're going for, it makes sense that they recreated in this kind of like one grayscale, or like one like a monotone scale of colors all around.
You
So
mean
I'm like,
the original Game Boy?
yeah, the original Game Boy.
I'm gonna say I hope the Game Boy Color had Game Boy Colors.
Sorry, yeah, no,
No, it's
yeah, my
okay.
bad. Yeah.
I'm joshing
Uh,
you.
yeah, the original Game Boy, it was just black and white. To put it like simply, it was just very grayscale, very monochrome, and so it's cool that they took that, but with one kind of like shade, and then they just messed around with it and gave it that feel.
The original Game Boy, if you ever messed with one, does have this shade of yellowish green to the games. And I think that's exactly what they wanted to do when it came to the tint. Now, I'm not sure if it was like this for you on the PC. For me on the Switch, they also added a bunch of little nibbly knobs around the screen
Yep.
that you can mess with. Change the tint on it. Maybe if you want to mess with different buttons and designs. I had a kick out of that. They legit wanted to go for the retro feel.
Yep.
So this came out. It's on PC and Switch. In US dollars, currently $2. Pretty good price.
I agree. 230 Canadian.
So, it's a $2 game. And with that, it comes with almost a completely different experience from what I've seen so far. And when I first looked at it, and this was before I looked anything up, the first thing I always wanted to do is avoid looking at reviews or anybody talking about the game. Because that stuff is scary, didn't want to be biased or whatnot. And when I completed the game, the first thing I thought was like, this has to be a passion project. Like, this was somebody's, clearly their, maybe not first game, but one of the first games that they made. Because there's a lot of people out there that made their first game, and it turns out to be like one of those silly, barely finished projects that get played by Markiplier on YouTube as a kind of a joke. This is polished, and it was a passion project that I thought got quite a bit of completion. What are your thoughts there?
Um, I agree because here we're looking at where the possible motivation is in terms of like it's a game that somebody was just genuinely interested in making. It wasn't a game that somebody was making to get famous and make money, which is
Sure.
why there's so much effort put into like so many like there's even there's so many details that you wouldn't think that somebody would put into a game like this, especially if it's their first game.
Absolutely. Like, we think of one man, or I guess in this case, one woman teams that, they have to make everything. They have to make the coding, they have to make the graphics, they have to make the sounds. And by far, one of my favorite things that I got to enjoy with this game is the sounds, the music. Holy crap, the music in this game.
I agree. I can't, even though I played it this week, I can't remember where exactly it is in the game, but there's one place where the soundtrack was just, it was a banger and it felt old. Like it felt familiar. Like it felt, like it was like I was playing Pokemon Yellow again, kind of.
And for me, it felt like it was almost like a Castlevania style tune to it. Just down to the aesthetics, especially like when you go into I think the character's name is Squib Squab's lair, the science lab that had like some Mega Man esque music to it. And just fun fact for everybody: the original Game Boy hosted what is called the Game Boy Sound System, and it was a 4-bit wave channel that you know it could hold a simple a tune as one could possibly imagine, and it had the same audio capacity as the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was again fairly simple. Most things were 2-track, maybe 3-track at the very most, and so the simple tunes we knew from Nintendo's classics were compact and quaint. But for a Game Boy game, they lacked memory space, and the songs were very short and heavily looped.
Right.
Squidlet was a little bit different, though. As it turns out, 2018 treated memory a little bit nicer,
Just a
and
little bit.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And so Alex or the Squidlit Inc. Limited liability, if we're going to go with that detail, they were able to make not only this style of music, they're able to do it, I believe, in a slightly higher bit. I feel like it might have been at least 8-bit, if not 16-bit. Could be wrong, but the quality of it was much nicer. Not only were they able to make longer tracks instead of just looping like the same 16, 32 seconds, it felt like continued almost for a minute, if not longer. And the quality, like, I can only imagine how much time they spent making each one of these tracks. And granted, the game isn't the longest. The music felt fitting for each scene that they're working with, and I got a kick out of it. Putting in headphones, popping it into the Switch, and giving it a shot while I was driving. Not when I was driving, mind you. When I was in a
Oh, okay.
truck.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I need the
Um,
thrill, it's like, what better way to get a kick out of a game while, driving while playing the Switch? Whoops. But yeah, when I was, in motion between stops at work, listening to this game took me out of the environment entirely. I was in tune with the style of music that they had to offer, and 100% loved it. Like, it was so good, it's like, man, if somebody, if one person can work and make this music, it almost inspired me to want to make my own. Was like, I want to make this kind of music. Like, this is amazing. I want more of this kind of stuff. And it reminded me of a more quaint version of Anamanaguchi. And have you heard of that band before, Nick?
no, I have not.
Anamanaguchi is a band, if you will, that they make their music strictly using like synth waves and all that stuff. So it's
Okay.
almost like super heavy duty versions of 8-bit music. And while what Squidlet had to offer wasn't like full on crazy songs like that, it had the same vibe and tune to it that made me adore it. It was very appreciative. I think it had a natural fit to a game that you would find on the Game Boy in the 80s.
Yeah, the music is, I think, was my favorite part of the game too. Yeah, I have no more to add to what you said. There's just so much. Um, there was a lot more depth to the music than there would be in a game from the time that these games were the norm.
Right.
And that just increased the immersion, especially to what we're used to today. Like, I've been talking about how much I've been playing The Witcher 3, and The Witcher 3 pulls you in with the music and the narration, like the narrative and the story and all these different characters and side quests that build out your characters. But then all of that comes from early game design principles on just simple things like music, making you feel in tune with the environment that you're in and being apt for the tone and what you're doing. And then these are the things that the foundations of what used to pull people into games.
Um, Games of this era, like a good example would be Super Mario Brothers, or let's say just the original Legend of Zelda. They usually only had 3 or 4 tunes at the very most, and most of them are iconic just because of the popularity of the games. But it was like of the same stigma, the same style, same quality. And the
Right.
fact they're able to produce, I don't even know how many songs this thing has, maybe five, six or so, and they're all bangers.
I will agree there. I think it's been about 4 or 5, but then also the difference is with the games that you mentioned, they were presented to you for a very different reason. They were presented to you on, either this is the first in a series, or we're going to take this forward in a series, or this is a sequel. So this is the world we're building out. So the focus was never on the music. Whereas here with Squidlit, I feel like we've just been given a um it's just been a full package. It's just been a complete like experience as a whole,
Right.
which makes sense why everything seems fitting. Which is again goes back to like why it all seems polished. We're not being directed to one specific thing of the game. The game's complete, which is rare to find nowadays because everything's in early access or beta or alpha.
That is true. That is true. Nick, you're smiling at me with that beautiful smile of yours when you say that. Uh so moving on from the sound, I mean the next big thing I can think of is design. This is meant to be I believe they termed it a a retro recreation. I mean, this is a platformer game. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, it's as simple as you get. You jump, you move around, you want to ink something, you hit them right below you. And for that, I think the controls themselves are fairly straightforward. When it comes to like the beginning, I'm gonna say like maybe 2/3 of the levels, it's just a matter of running around, dodging enemies, and inking the hell out of them, and making sure that they get knocked out. And traversing certain platforms had maybe minor difficulty at the very most. And there was the boss fights that happened that changed the way things were working out. I think the boss fights were definitely a good fresh pace away from the platforming that it offered.
Yeah, and they
When
weren't the standard like here's a boss, here's a health bar. You gotta ink this boss as many times, and then they'll go down. Because as you're playing through the game, usually most all the enemies outside of the bosses, you just gotta hit them once with an ink blast.
right, right. uh but when it came to like the bosses, like for example, I think it's called Grimoire or something like that, the book. You had to dodge the book around while it flies around the thing. It's like, okay, that's normal. But then it opens it up and you have to jump into it and ink up the pages in order to, stop it from unleashing hell
Right,
on you.
right. I actually forgot about the book, but the book was honestly was probably my favorite boss fight. That was really cool. It was a really cool concept.
Hmm.
It took me a while to figure out because I was just bouncing around for a few minutes. I'm like, how do I fight him? What do I do? Do I just avoid this forever?
Right,
I wanted to say about the platforming before we move on to like some of the other things. It made me miss platformers. Now it's not that platformers don't exist, but it made me I don't know what it was about. It was just um it was so straightforward in its presentation, but it still had its own challenges. It wasn't the most difficult, no, but it felt fun
right,
just going through it. Yeah, and I don't really have any way to articulate that better, but it really did feel fun and it felt comfortable. But on the because I plugged in my controller
right.
when I played this because it just made more sense because this is just
Really?
two buttons. Um, um, yeah, there's no. I'm not aiming. I'm not trying to shoot somebody in the head. I didn't need my mouse for it, so I'm like, all right, let's just plug in a controller. I will say it did feel
Nick's
weird.
going
So I feel,
casual over here.
I feel like this might have been overall a better experience on a handheld device.
I feel like I would agree, just given the way that the mechanics work. It was simple. I think a handheld would have suited it great. Honestly, if I had to choose, I probably would have said 3DS, but since the 3DS is dead in its grave, the Switch is
Yeah,
the next best thing. Maybe on the PS4, but it's like PS4 with the controller is like, eh. It just seems like the PS4 is overkill, but the Switch is just the right fit. It's simple, it's
yeah.
to the point, and
Um,
to
my
yeah, go ahead.
my issue with that was because it's one of those things where because I'm playing on a monitor on my PC, like the resolution and because I was so zoomed in and because it was all so big, it initially it felt a little disorienting
I mean,
because my character was bobbing around so quick, and I'm like, it took me a while to like, not a while, it took me a few seconds from like, oh, okay, this is the speed at which he's gonna bob and stuff. So I feel like it might have been just a slightly better experience on a handheld.
if you think about it, since this game was meant to be based off of something that would have gone on the Game Boy, yeah, probably the smaller the screen and the closer to your face, the better. Trying to blow it up to something of a larger size on, like a TV or a computer screen probably felt almost surreal at that point. And
Yeah.
so, in terms of like the most natural fit that they were aiming for, I probably got the better deal out of that.
Yeah, and I can totally like see them, with whatever else they put out, um, just having a healthy like market if they were going to keep to this style of games on like the Switch, because especially with the Switch Lite now, I can
Yeah,
only imagine what more they might come out with. But yeah, it's just it just felt a little disorienting because it was all blown up. But that was just I even chalked up. It's not nothing they did wrong. It's just this is the style of game that even on an emulator, if it was all blown up, if it was in one of those older games, would not have like looked super great or felt super great to play.
right. And to the developers' benefit, they made it very clear that if there was any kind of seriousness that was tied to the story, they immediately cut any ropes that held that notion up and just let it drop into the inky ocean where it belongs. Because it's like the story's like, "Hi, you're Squidlit. You're in this little town. There's a bad person. You should probably go there." And they're like, "Hi, I'm this Squidlit. I'm just doing my job. Don't mind me." You get outside the town, and it's like, "Hey, nothing personal, kid. This, the guy, Squidlet looks like, with the eye patch and might as well be smoking a cigar and has a grizzled face and be a solid snake. Yeah, I could be going there and doing this job, but oh well, good luck." And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fair. And it shows you, the castle's way off in the distance, probably like a 5-day travel. And it's like, oh, if you defeat these enemies on the farm, I'll send you right there. It's like, yeah, they like the story's there, but it's almost comical. It's like, they're just trying to have fun. Tie things together,
Yeah,
let them do
yeah.
their thing. And while you're going in the air on this magic carpet looking thing, then you fight a flying shark. It's like, huh,
A
okay.
flying shark snake that spits fire and acid.
Very actually killed me one time. That one actually gave me the most trouble out of all the bosses. And it, I thought it was like a predetermined in the way that it attacks and whatnot, but suddenly it just turned random when it got close to lower health, and I just kept having to dodge. I couldn't keep up with it. Just out of the blue, flying shark
Yeah.
snake. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it. It just seemed like it was a bunch of ideas made by the developer that they had to tie together in some shape or form. Like, what happens if they had to fight a flying shark snake? Should I make that? No, probably have to fly. I'll just make them fly there. Yeah, sure. Let's have a Galaga fight. Just out of the blue. It's like, okay.
It was a surprising change of pace, but it was fun because I that was probably the most challenging thing of the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, okay, I really have to pay attention now. And then dodging and weaving and then shooting back, and that's the other thing about older games that I think we take for granted now a little bit. There was no feedback on the fact that we were damaging the boss. I
Right.
didn't know if my shots were doing anything because I just kept shooting and kept hitting him, but it
It
wasn't
was
doing anything.
the
So I'm just
bullets
like,
disappeared, so
okay,
it's like, am I hurting it? Was there a weak spot? Like, there
right,
was no flashing, and I kind of wish for that, just like some kind of sign that I'm doing something right. That would have been nice. Uh, but that kind of fight I enjoyed so much that it started making me think like just doing horizontal shooting would have been fantastic for this game. And now I understand you're a cute little squidlet, you can only ink below you, but it would have been cool if you could somehow ink like omnidirectional or at least four-way direction.
right, right.
Just like
Well, I
Mega Man
mean,
style or something.
yeah, well, I mean, moving forward, if they were to keep with like the same kind of like silliness and fun with their story, what's
Yeah.
stopping them from making like a mech suit that all the squidlets could get into? That now all of a sudden they just had to sit in the head area and they could channel their ink through like a blaster in their arm,
So almost like a Kirby style thing where they somehow fuse together like the Squid Squad or something.
something like that.
Power Rangers. Squidodon! Squidosaurus Rex. Okay, sorry. And there's only one very notable character. Like there's a couple other ones that were here and there that, kind of showed their appearance, but like the big baddie was Squid Squat, God Emperor, which I legally have to say without, risk being thrown into a prison because apparently that's how that works. And Squid Squat was an interesting character. I still don't know like the main the reason. The whole thing was doing Grimoire was to find out why was Squid Squat causing mayhem in the first place. Apparently they wanted to do something darkness. Oh, there's ink in the pages. I guess you better stop them. I'm like, I honestly thought there was like a bad guy in the picture, or maybe Squidlit was the bad guy of the whole time, and Squid Squad is trying to save it. Kind of like Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland style, where King Dedede stole the Star Rod so he could save the world, not hurt it. But you ink in a pot, you stop the potion, the world starts raining ink for some reason, but everybody's happy, so it works out. And it was funny. I like the way that things worked. I almost felt like that the interactions when you talk to characters had the Game Boy text vibes, where it's like sentences that were originally in Japanese, but they had to quickly translate it to English. So it was like I am error kind of situation from the NES. The big example I thought was there was a rebellious daughter who was on the top of a tree. Hence the rebellious saying, "Hey, my mom said not to climb trees," and it's like, "Why the heck are you up here then?"
Yeah,
But
and then actually, you can also find the mom on top of a tree later on.
yeah, she's also like, "I told my daughter not to climb trees, but here I am." I'm like,
No, the
okay,
whole like the fact what surprised me also and reminded me a lot of Pokemon was the fact that you could talk to just about everybody.
yeah,
Like,
they're all interactable unless they wanted to
yeah,
hurt you.
I don't think there was anybody that wasn't interactable that was an NPC and just hanging out. And some of the interactions with some of the guards when Squid Squad's like, "Don't let any Squidlets in," and you're like, "All right," and you're like, "Are you a Squidlet?" No. All right, cool.
Yeah,
That was those
welcome to Squid
those are
Squat,
my
God Emperor's lair.
favorite moments in the fucking like it was my favorite moments in the game because they're just like it's so silly and I appreciated the simpleness of the silliness.
Like one moment you're playing a platformer trying to ink enemies by jumping over and whatnot. There's a time where you're having a Galaga fight to the death with a flying shark snake, and suddenly there's like a moment where it's like, "Ha, you're barred entry," or "I need you to do something." It's RPG now. Suddenly I got text options. It's like, okay, sure. It was out of the blue, and it was comical at best and cute at worst. And it's hard to say that worst thing of it is being cute. I think it was pretty interesting. I also wanted to note that this game had more enjoyable plot and dialogue than Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. And that game is Super Mario Land's like an hour and 20 minutes to complete. However, the one thing that I did have to the detriment to this, and Nick, I understand that you might have either countering opinions on this. The game to complete's a half hour long.
Yeah, I took about 33 minutes, I think.
I probably took 34 because I died once or,
Right.
twice. Also, the
Well,
health
I
bar
didn't
and
die.
muffins. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not cool enough to fight the
No,
flying shark snake.
actually, I'm lying. I died a couple of times with the boss, but
Squid Squad also got me.
only because it took me a while to figure out what I had to do, and then when I figured it out, I had like half a muffin left, and I'm like, all right, let me just wipe, and then we'll just start over.
Just, yeah, just call it and take it right there. Plus, there was that little monster at the very bottom that just out of the blue, you're
It's
like,
so cute. Honestly, that's my favorite thing in the entire game. That little like wiggly clay snake. It's super cute because you can ink it, but then it frees itself from the ink after like 5 seconds or something.
right.
And it's the cutest thing I've seen in a very long time. I love
Why do the cutest things either want to murder or murder us?
it. um, gosh, I had something to say. I can't remember.
Sure. Uh, but yeah, this game is half an hour long. I'm very upset by that. And when I completed it that quickly, my first thought again was this has to be a passion project because if they wanted to make it a full on game in the long run, they probably would have taken more time to add more levels and all that stuff. But it's like, hey, I did this. I'm happy with it. Let's just release it. And that makes sense, right?
Right.
As you said earlier, you said that the developer probably did it because, this was something that they enjoyed doing. They weren't there for the money. It's a $2 game. I mean, they're not here for the money. So they released it as is. And for me as a gamer, that kind of left me frustrated because I am selfish. I want more.
No, I
There's so
understand that that makes sense. Like part of what I just remembered I was thinking about was that one fight, not that one fight, that one part where you're navigating and you have to capture the books, because
yes.
there are bugs flying around. Um, this is where like I feel like, and we've had this conversation on the main show as well, where some of these things that modern gaming has given us that we take for granted and has made games a little easier in some ways. I was like, crap, do I really have to travel all over the place and backtrack? Is there a fast travel option? Is there a
Right.
map? Do I know where I've been? But we didn't have that in Pokemon, like in the earlier versions.
No, if you were
Even now to
stuck, you
some
were
extent
either
we
a
don't have.
walkthrough or you were screwed. There was no internet back then. The really like
And
if you're lucky, Nintendo Hotline, and that costs money. That costs money.
so I I really did enjoy this game as a whole. I understand, and it's the same thing. Like, yeah, no, I understand the frustration of it not being longer because, like, if you look at some of the games now, all it is just like live service games, and it's just content after content after content, and thing for you to do after thing for you to do, and we've just gotten used to that. So I can't entirely blame anybody for being, upset or frustrated by it. But as long as they're also able to like realize that or at least appreciate the game for what it is and
Right.
realize that why it is this short to some extent, then I see nothing wrong with being frustrated about that. The other thing I wanted to say when you talked about like the story and the quality of the story, I will stick to this. I feel like this game has more quality of story than Sword and Shield. The 30 minutes of story you get in this game makes more sense than a lot of things in Sword and Shield.
What, did you not like the fact that there wasn't a Squidlet saying, "Hey, if you take one more step, we're gonna have a Squid Squat battle.
No, it's still like again going
I'll
back
race you
to
there." Cutscene run away.
going back to like the level of polish. The fact that every character you can interact with every character. There's attention has been paid to like some of the smallest details, and whether you notice it or not, it brings it all together.
I don't see this as much of a game so much as a promise for more. This almost feels like this is a Kickstarter project saying, "Hey, we love this, we did this, we're done with it. But if you want more, you should let us know." And it's like $2 is fairly cheap, to test and cast your vote on that. And the good news to us as people that enjoyed Squidlet, they're working on a second game right now called Super Squidlet, which supposedly is
Nice.
going to have more levels, have different enemies. Hopefully, she started posting on her Twitter account showing how there's going to be different types of well, mostly hundreds upon hundreds of Squidlets, because apparently she loved drawing them ever since like it looked like almost 9-10 years ago. But then started showing like different types of enemies or different types of Squidlets that wore different hats and stuff like that. And honestly, like if they could give me like a 3-hour version of this game for like $20, I'm in. Take your time, take
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
need. Just yeah, I would, 3 hours would make me super happy. It'd be the longest Game Boy game in gaming history. I understand. I'll do this. I'll work with you here. The suspension of disbelief at this point.
It's kind of like the ratio of like when we're looking at the ratio of time to money. I feel like what you're asking for is very similar to what Katana Zero was.
Right.
Katana Zero, in all aspects, was not a very long game, but
No,
for the
it was
experience,
short.
yeah, but for the experience and for the price that you paid, I feel like, and I think we both agree, the experience of that game was well worth that price.
And I'd happily pay $20 to get a continuation of that game. And same concept, except we were contacted by Squidlet, and it turned out we stumbled across something cute and adorable. and it had the right kind of vibes. Honestly, if they wanted to, the main purpose was to make it look like a Game Boy game. If they wanted to upgrade to the Game Boy Color game, I wouldn't say no per
I
se.
wouldn't say no either, but also I'm not one to tell people what to do. But I've gotten used to and spoiled and a little selfish by some modern affordances, and some color would be nice. But I'll still play whatever comes next.
Right. I mean, you and I played Pokemon Red and Blue. So, I mean, for me, it was Pokemon Yellow, so there was like 2 extra pixels
It
of
was
color here
Pokemon
and
Yellow
there.
for me. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like we were happy with the design choices and all that stuff. If you want to, add a little bit more color to it, if that's too much work, that's fine. Just give me maybe like some kind of Mega Man shooter style mechanic, just a different kind of mechanic besides run and jump.
Right.
I would have preferred if there's a couple of good enemies that had different mechanics or different purposes. Like you said, the little clay snake thing that you lured over to switches to get you through
Right. I
certain
forgot
parts of the
about
thing.
that. Yeah. That was a fun mechanic. That took some figuring out. Like it, not like it took me a long time. And it wasn't super difficult, but then that that puzzle, because I also grew up on playing like Prince of Persia, the
Yeah,
original trilogy, and that like it's similar to like God of War style. It's a lot of puzzle solving in between the combats, and I'm like, this is a cool puzzle. And I wish there was a little bit more of it. So
right.
again, going back to the length of the game, and you saying that this is kind of like a teaser for what's to come. I agree with I agree with that train of thought, because as I've said, this is very much a complete package. But then also leading into what Tyler said with it being a teaser, I do see this as like a potential or like a springboard for what could possibly happen. And if we could have like a longer game with more Galaga, with more puzzles, with more like jumping into like books to solve and fight bosses, I'm down.
Bring your equivalent of King Dedede back. I would love to see Squit Squat God Emperor make a return. Maybe not as a villain. Maybe it's Squit Squat, flies around and you're on its back trying to fend off enemies as you try to save off
Ooh,
the
a Squid
real
Squad and
villain.
Squidlit team up.
Mm. I mean, it's happened before. Another thing I noticed is she likes to draw a lot of Squitlets. They almost look like Puyo Puyo characters, like Mr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or Kirby's Avalanche, those kind of games. Or, if you know the game genre, Puyo Puyo, which was basically
Right.
a
Right.
puzzle game where combining different colors together in a puzzle and whatnot. And that also is cute. But they proved that they can do different genres out of the blue. So, I mean, it's not completely unreasonable to have that, just an arcade at a Squitlet milk bar or something like that. Actually, I
Right.
don't know if Squitlets drink milk. Do Squitlets drink milk?
I
What
don't
do you
know.
think? I don't know. I mean, if they're
I know there's like a
cephalopods,
cafe in one of the cities. I don't
hmm.
know what they were drinking though. I don't know if they're drinking
I
coffee.
think
I
I,
can't
I think it
remember.
was coffee.
Was it?
I
So
think
if
so.
there's coffee, then by logic, you could assume that there is milk or creamers of some kind.
Hmm. Who's to say? I think there's a lot that is expected about this game. The game itself was a great game if it was meant to be a platformer for future titles of a longer and more diverse length. I think this was a great test ground for Squidlit Inc. LLC. I just realized it's Squidlit Inc. INK, not INC. It's not incorporated. That got me. That got me. When it comes to the music, though, just keep doing what you're doing. Like the music, just you don't even have to change it. Just port it over to the next game. That's fine. If you want to add more, sure, please. But you did great with what you had right there, and I think for all the marks that it tried to hit, the game hit them all. They said they wanted to make a retro game that was a platformer that was cute, it was cuddly. It was finally those Squitlets finally coming to life, and they did magnificently. And I hope to see more of these titles.
Yeah, and also to help out my boy Tyler here, if you just wanted to like not make games and just make music, I think you'd be okay with that too. So that's how good
Wow.
the music was.
Okay, I'm gonna say that's a bit of a
No, no,
backhand.
no. I'm just saying the music was so good. I really
I
enjoyed that
know.
music, especially in the castle.
If you
That
just want to
I
make a
think, which is what you talk
soundtrack,
about. Ooh, oh yeah, put out a soundtrack. I'd buy that up.
Okay, so big brain here. Make a soundtrack, sell that as like I would suggest even a Kickstarter at this point. Say, hey, here's this game. If you chip in $5, here's this game for free. $10, here's the OST. Just for Super Squidlet or something because there's so many opportunities to be had with this. It is the Kirby of its time being recreated, and I really think that Squidlet has something to offer. But I think that's going to be it, unless you have any final thoughts that you want to lay on it.
No, I just to wrap up everything, music great, details great, felt polished, felt complete. Um, I had a good time, I had a fun time playing it, playing this little game, and it was very cute, especially that snake thing. Could I get it in a plushie, please? Thank you.
I'm sure you can find somebody on Etsy with Alex's permission, of course. But sure, yes. Uh, yeah, I think that's going to be it. Squidlit, great game. Super Squidlit coming out to be announced. If you want to check out more of their work, they are at, I believe it is called Super Squidlit.
Yeah, and TBA specifically for the Switch, right? Oh no,
I
sorry. My bad. You said Super Squidlit. I heard Squidlit, and I'm like, but that's already out. Never mind. Carry on, Tyler.
Thank you. Yes, Super Squidlit is the Twitter profile at Super Squidlit. Uh, Super Squidlit. And if you want to check out the game and give it a shot themselves and see what the ink is about, you can find Squidlit for $2 in US dollars, either on PC or on Switch. Now give it a shot yourself. See if it's your taste. I think it is. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a nice, cute, lunch break game, and I think it's worth it. Anyways, that was Nick. This is Tyler. That was Casual Master Quest review of Squidlit, and thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time, and don't forget to never stop the grind. Till next time, guys.
Bye bye.